Hello, everyone. You're watching SK Live. I am your host, Indranil Basu. Today, we have a very special man, someone who is the real all rounder in Bollywood, Mr. Rahul Bose. Sir, welcome to SK Live. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. Please don't call me sir. Please call me Rahul.
Okay. That's a habit we inculcate. Over the years, we someone who's senior has been around for such a long time, and someone like you who's been an actor, director, screenwriter, a philanthropist, and a rugby player. I mean, what else is
You
left?
can still call me Rahul. It doesn't matter.
But what else is left? You're everywhere.
Well, I don't know. I mean, really, one does what one's heart compels one to do. So I've only done what I've what I felt from my heart. So
No, I mean, we don't generally see so much of all-round skills inside any actor. We know they're on the screen, they're doing a lot of things, but someone coming and doing stuff like this, coming on the field, it's quite a brave thing. What the game you represent India, so that's a quite a phenomenal thing.
I accept the compliment with great gratitude, but I have never ever tried to do something to increase my brand equity. I have always done the same things that I did when I was a small boy.
Okay.
I played rugby from the age of 13. I acted from the age of 6. I, wrote compositions and essays from the age of 7 or 8. Uh, the only thing that I do today, which I could not have seen that I would be doing in the future, would be being the head of two nonprofit organizations, one devoted to child sexual abuse and the other devoted to the equalization of opportunity
Yeah.
for people in underdeveloped areas compared to those in developed areas in the country. That part of it, Indranil, I would never have seen coming because I, as a child, as a teenager, was not particularly altruistically minded or socially inclined, very much in my own bubble, very much in my competitive bubble, very much in my I want to be the best bubble, very much in my excellence bubble, very much into girls at some point. All of that was my universe, and the idea that I would one day end up donating 70% of all my money to my NGOs and work for now it's my 16th year uh, as a founder of two NGOs. That part of it, even I could not have seen. That part of it came much later when I was, I'll say, in my early 30s.
But you're a well-read man. You also read a lot of books. The way you came across, playing those character roles is not easy.
Well, it depends on what you read. You can read a lot. You can read a lot of trash
I
and
know.
tell people that you've read a lot of books.
Yeah.
You can read a lot of fascist literature, or you can read a lot of oppressive, um, exclusivist, majoritarian um, ideology, and spend your whole life reading the wrong things, and you would end up with as some kind of half-baked human being with tin pot dictator values, for example.
Yeah.
So I think it's very, very important to read, but to read
Right.
the right things, or at least everything. At least expose yourself to everything, so that you could make a choice. For that, I have to thank my mother because she literally opened the library. We didn't have a separate room as a library. We had a huge shelf where there was Encyclopedia Britannica, and there was Shakespeare, and there was racy fiction with bits of sex in them, like Harold Robbins and things like that. But she just threw the whole shelf open to me at the age of 10. And she said, you can read all of this. Um, and if you have any questions, please ask me. So from the age of 10, this is pre-television, pre-internet, all of that, I devoured books and gradually came to understand what I believed in, what I was drawn to, and what I wasn't. And along with books, the people you meet in Renil, the places you go, you gradually start to form a worldview. And then, of course, there came a time in my early 30s when I began to seek public intellectuals in this country. I used to call them up and introduce myself and go to their cities and spend hours with them, listening to their ideas of India, their ideas of freedom, their ideas of democracy, their ideas of evolution, of civilizational growth. And that's when I really began to put everything together and come to a kind of coherent worldview that I still hold dear.
Absolutely. And you also were trained under great Tiger Pataudi sir. That's
No,
something.
let's not make too big a deal out of that. It was just one summer.
Okay.
These things get spun on in the press and in the web on the web.
Yeah.
It was one summer,
Okay.
but it was a defining summer for me because I was, I think, 13 years old, and it was defining for me because uh, Tiger Pataudi, who I met properly many years later, and I asked him, "What should I call you, sir?" He said, "Don't call me sir, just call me Tiger," which is why I refer to him as Tiger Pataudi, not out of any disrespect. But I remember Tiger set an example as a coach that I have never forgotten. The first thing he told me was never put your hands on your hips when you're fielding. Keep your hands loose by your side. Then he taught me how to field in the covers. He taught me how to take a start, how to watch the batsman's feet, how to see where you felt the ball was going to be going, how to try and anticipate. I mean, that man was absolutely brilliant as a fielder. I've seen him in footage, but what he told us about fielding, I was just fascinated listening to him about fielding, forget about batting. And then, of course, he taught us the things I learned from him were never take a step back, always attack, prepare before you get there, and respect the game. Respect the game, respect the people. He was tremendously egalitarian in his approach towards people. He didn't have the time or the energy or the pettiness to waste on playing favorites. He was just there for you to be excellent. If you didn't push yourself, if you didn't uh, rise up to the occasion, at least mentally, then he would never say anything, but you could make out by his manner that he was disappointed. So he was a great guy. And then I must say this to you, Indranil, that was when I was 13. So 30 years later, when I was 43, I approached him to donate some of his memorabilia for an auction I was holding of sports memorabilia to collect money for my foundation. And I remember going to him. That's when I said, "What do I call you?" He said, "Call me Tiger." He said, "What do you want?" I said, "Tiger, I mean, you're amazing." He says, "No one's ever asked me for anything, so I don't know what to give you." I said, "Look, it can be an old photograph with one of your cricketing idols signed by him or her. It could be something that you wore in some defining test match. It could be a blazer. It could be a bat, whatever." So he thought about it. He said, "Okay, can you come in next week and I'll speak to Sharmila and we'll keep some stuff out." So I said, "Fine." So a week later, I called up Sharmila ji. I called her Mrs. T. I said, "Mrs. T, have you, has Tiger taken out anything?" And she said, "Yes, you can come anytime. Esho, tumi dakho." So I said, "Fine." I went over and there were 40 things laid out.
Amazing.
And I chose his debut blazer.
Wow.
And I chose his retiring blazer against the West Indies. And I put it together and I said, I think it was 16 years or 14 years, I forget his lifespan. I said 14 years of a Tiger. And that was the piece. And
Wow.
it was one of the most popular pieces of the auction. He was a remarkable captain, remarkable thinker, remarkable teacher, but it was just a summer and one summer. So I want to lay all the other urban tales to rest. It was not more than that. But I was struck, overjoyed, and impressed when I met him 30 years later.
And getting coached by such a legend. I mean, why won't you continue with cricket? Why then? How did rugby come into the picture?
Well, two things happened. At the age of 14, I stopped growing. I didn't stop growing taller, but I realized I was not going to be a 6-footer. I used to open the bowling for school, left arm over. And in fact, I played a game with Wasim Akram many years later, and
Wow.
I was telling him just how I thought he was the greatest bowler in history. And then he bowled to me, and of course, I soiled my pants because I was so terrified of facing him. But that's a different story. So I used to bowl left arm over. I used to open the bowling for school, and I realized I was not going to grow taller, and it would be very difficult. I wasn't even 5'6" then. I was probably 5'4", and I had another 3-4 years of slow growth in front of me that would take me to 5'6". So I was facing that. I was a natural left-handed bat. I'm a complete left-hander. I was a natural left-handed bat. I top scored in our school matches in the Giles Shield, and the umpire said you should turn out for Bombay Schools tryouts because they felt that uh, I could be an excellent all-rounder. So when that happened, I realized that the competition is so fierce that I didn't think I was talented enough. So I didn't go for the Bombay Schools tryout. In the same year, the school not started rugby. That's the age when you were in the 8th standard, you started playing rugby in Cathedral School in Bombay. And I played. Now, here was a sport that the more muddy you became, the greater was supposed to be your performance. Here was a sport that the more violent and aggressive you were on the field, the more you were praised. Here was a sport that the more you got cut or you bled, girls came running after you. There was something about blood that the girls in my school at the time, maybe times have changed, but they were so attracted to, the sort of the wounded hero kind of thing. So, I mean, for a 14-year-old who girls never looked at, that was a tremendous feeling. For a 14-year-old who had oodles of aggression and energy to go onto a field and give it all out was amazing. For a 14-year-old who used to be routinely slapped by his mother for bringing home, extremely dirty clothes or keeping a dirty room or an untidy house, this was fantastic. It was legitimate. So I was hooked. Then I was scouted 2.5 years later by the Bombay Gymkhana coaches. They were scouting for the Bombay Gymkhana team. And they scouted me and said, would you like to play? And I said yes. And I was just short of 17. And then when I began to learn with them and with the Bombay Gymkhana team, I realized the passion, the poetry, and the flow of the game was something that is, even till now, it is unmatched in any sport. Perhaps there are a couple of sports that could match hockey at its free flowing, football at free flowing. Yes, there is the same kind of flow, but the flow of rugby is the whiplash that ends in the try in the corner, which that attrition, and then freedom, and then go, and then the whole, the serpent's tail ends up with the whipping right at the corner of the field to score. That flow, that poetry, that speed, I haven't seen in any other sport. And then I was hooked. And so I played my first All India. The highest tournament domestically was the All India and South Asia tournament. At the age of, I was 18. And there wasn't an official award for it, but I scored the highest amount of tries in that tournament at 18. And I was unofficially awarded player of the tournament. So
Oh, do you still
that
play?
was the beginning of my
You
career.
still play?
Yes, I still play. I played yesterday.
Oh, wonderful. And do you think age is a sort of barrier for rugby because you need a lot of the contact sport after all.
Oh, definitely. It, it is possibly one of the crueler sports in terms of age. Every sport is cruel in terms of age. By your mid 30s, if you're playing international rugby, that's about it. If you are uh, born with a youth and a metabolic age that is younger than you are, then you can go on. It doesn't matter. I mean, Roger Federer is still playing, right?
The underpaid.
Sachin Tendulkar played. Played beyond 40. Leander is a wonder in himself. So look. I'm not anywhere close to them in terms of my abilities, but I retired at 42. So, but beyond that, I mean, I can today, if I pushed myself and I really paid attention to my body, and I really only did things for rugby, and I didn't run, and I didn't swim, and I didn't play squash, and I didn't go hiking in the mountains, if I didn't do all that, and I just did this, I could play at the highest level domestically in club rugby in the country. But that's it. I mean, even that would be a stretch, but I played a couple of games a couple of years ago. Then I was shooting last year and I couldn't play. But yeah, a couple of years ago, I was 51, so I played.
And what's with the rugby scene? I mean, in the country, is it growing? Is it like really static? You think there's a future for rugby? Because when brand ambassador like you start playing the sport, all the focus is there. You're not there in a full swing. So how do you see rugby growing in this country?
Well, my answer is going to shock you. Rugby is the most widespread sport in the country, and nobody knows it. Today, rugby is played out of 28 states and 8 union territories. It's played in 24 states. Today, out of 710 odd districts in the country, it's played in 260 districts. It's played in 1/3 of the country, little more than 1/3 of the country, 33% of the country, 35% of the country, which is massive. Today, our best players are coming from Kolhapur, from Bhubaneswar, from tribals in Odisha, from Haryana, from the villages around, from a few very talented players, obviously in the Delhi NCR region. I'm talking about men and women from the northeast, from the tribal areas of Chhattisgarh, from the tea gardens, from Saraswatipur in Bengal, from Tamil Nadu, from Kerala, from Bangalore. We have teams. I mean, you will be shocked to see the amount of teams that we have today in the country at the grassroots level. There's the club, there's the district, there's the state, there's the country. So it is astonishingly widespread. The only reason that Indranil Basu doesn't know about it is because it's not on television. The only reason why anybody doesn't know about it is because it's not on television. And that is the last step for this sport. Once it gets onto television, you will be shocked at the numbers of people who will be watching it, primarily because there is already a tremendous interest amongst players across the country who will spread the interest in their regions. And secondarily, because it is kabaddi on steroids. So even if you haven't watched rugby and you've enjoyed kabaddi, rugby is, I mean, it's on steroids. It's kabaddi and into 100. So I have absolutely no doubt. And I love kabaddi, please. I genuinely do. It's a tremendous sport. But rugby also has speed, running, sprinting, with a ball, all of that. So as a spectator sport, it's just a winner. So that's the last step. That is the step that the Indian Rugby Football Union Board, myself, and many others are dedicating ourselves to make that happen.
We hope it happens, and I hope you're doing enough to take it to television.
I can only say this: when that property is ready, and when you see it, it will be world class. I just don't mean in its planning and execution, but in the content and in the people who play. It's my guarantee. Otherwise, we won't come. We won't do it.
Perhaps you're the only person who has got so much of connect with sports physically, and even after not playing that professional level, you're still running. You're doing marathon. You're doing virtual marathon. Can you tell us about those commitments you have? You're quite a sport in that way.
Well, as far as the actual running goes, Indranil, the secret is I'm not a runner.
Okay.
But I love community running events because I love what it does to a community, what a running event does to a city. Because if only for a few hours, whether it's in Kolkata where I've run a 25K, whether it's in Bombay where I've run 6 half marathons, whether it's in Delhi where I've run the half, whether it's in Bangalore where I've run the World 10K, for a few hours, the city comes together. Whether you're Hindu, Muslim, Dalit, Brahmin, rich, poor, male, female, it doesn't matter. The street is the great leveler. Once you start running, everyone is the same. Even the people who are watching are all the same. There is no air conditioned box. There is no, acha tu stalls mein hai, main balcony mein hu, tu dress circle mein hai. Everybody who watches a road race has a front row seat in the knee. And there's a vegetable vendor standing next to an industrialist, and they're both cheering their daughters. So a road race is as democratic as it can be. As I said, if only for a few hours. Whether you're wearing Nike shoes or whether you're barefoot, makes no difference. Also, running as a discipline is totally democratic. My coach is Leander Paes. Who's your coach?
Doesn't work like that.
I have the Babola racket. What racket do you have? I have pads. You don't even have pads to wear. You don't need anything. You just need to have a strong heart. And you don't even need to have strong feet. There's a wheelchair rugby event. You just need to have a strong heart and a big heart. So it is so democratic that I love these events, and I just love to watch and soak in the fact that when people are all moving towards a common destination, they forget who they're running with. So when India or the world decides that our common destination is a common destination of love, non-discrimination, compassion, peace, and positivity, you'll forget who's next to you. So that idea, the microcosmic expression of that idea, and maybe I'm reading too much into it, maybe I'm being ultra poetic, but maybe I'm being idealistic, but that's the way I am. That's why I love races. That's why I take part. I love that sense that, yes, if we all move together in one direction, things can be achieved. So now let's get to the virtual part of it. For example, there's the Sunfeast India Run as One. You must have heard of it, the initiative, Indranil, that the ProCam, the same guys who do these 4 world-class races in the country, real races, are doing this virtual race. So when they came to me, Anil and Vivek Singh, you should know that they are rugby players. So they played with me when I was 17, 18, 19, 20. So when they started the entire Mumbai Marathon, I was like, guys, India doesn't run. India hardly walks. What are you doing? This is not going to really work. And they proved me wrong 10,000 times over. And we've laughed about it for the last 15 years. So when they started this virtual race, I said, what's the key? They said, meaning? I said, what is the key? What is the grab? They said, we've decided in the Mumbai Marathon, Delhi Half Marathon, etc., we have an NGO component. NGOs can raise money by erecting a page on our website and raise money and run for us, run for stray dogs, run for shelter for destitute people, run for the homeless, run for old people, whatever. This time we are saying, run or walk or don't do anything, but the money that you pay to register goes towards compensating those who have lost their livelihoods during COVID-19. And I said, that is the grab. Because if there is one thing that has united this country's consciousness, it is those images of Indians struggling to get home.
Yeah.
That is the searing image. It is nothing else. The lasting image of this pandemic will be little children with their parents, teenagers with parents on their shoulders, somebody carrying somebody on a basket, somebody in a thela, somebody on a what you call those cycle thelas. I mean, the images of Indians doing nothing. They just want to go home. And there, 200, 300 people die, the misery, the suffering, none of it related to the pandemic. So that has, even if you were not philanthropic, that image of that child crying over that dead parent's body, or that person, cycling 1,000 kilometers to get the family home, those images of bandaged feet, of broken slippers, of hungry people, of vans crammed with people trying to go home, those images have made even the hardest heart say that, yeah, we should do something about people who don't have money during this time. And so when they opened this initiative, they were very clear. Yes, you register for 99 rupees, for example, or 499 or 999. And a portion of that money goes to Give India, a great organization run by Venkat and his team. And they give it to 82 NGOs across the country. They don't do it. India is too large for one NGO to know what's going on. They gave it to 82 local NGOs who then, on the ground, decide where the money should go and where it will be served for people who are really suffering through the pandemic. Now, even if you don't walk or don't run in this virtual thing, for the first time Procam has done this, the money that you used to register is going to go. So I've just been saying this with evangelical zeal that, listen, if 99, if you can give more than 99, why don't you go back to the website and press donate again and give another $100, give 200, give 6,000, give a lakh. It doesn't matter. Just give, because the people behind it are bona fide, are solid, are have no other motive to make money or anything like that. So I'm I would do anything that combines exercise and philanthropy. I would do anything for philanthropy anyway, but to combine exercise and philanthropy for me is a win-win. And in these times, to do it virtually is the best way to go.
You need characters in sports. You know, it makes so interesting. You think you play a character role so much. So how much importance do you give to that aspect? You know, when you have characters in sports, you know, you've seen so many of them. So what is your take?
Not necessary.
Okay,
Not necessary.
you need to be performer.
You yeah. You watch a sport for the sublime beauty of Jack Nicklaus playing golf.
Oh,
You watch a sport for the sublime beauty of Bjorn Borg playing tennis. You watch a sport for the sublime beauty of Nadia Comaneci getting a perfect 10. And none of them were characters.
yeah,
Now you tell me, wouldn't you enjoy that?
yeah, of course.
Nadia,
Yeah,
Jack,
yeah,
and Bjorn, wouldn't you enjoy that?
absolutely.
So I don't think you need characters. If you have characters like McEnroe, if you have characters, Mavericks, and it adds to the color. It adds to Ayrton Senna. These are the people who we love because we feel that they are more human than the others. And we are trying to, in a way, to bring them down a peg. If you're human, then you're like me. If you're superhuman, then I can't quite touch you. Then I can't love you. I can only worship you from a distance. So worship me at a distance. There's no need to have characters in sport. They add to the color because life is a rainbow and there are different kinds of people. So there's nothing wrong with that. But would a sport be more boring
Yeah.
with 20 Bjorn Borgs or 18 Jack Nicklauses? I don't think so. I would be enraptured.
Best way to manage stardom, you know, be it Bollywood, be it a sports star, what's the best way to manage? You know, right now we're seeing a lot of people suffering from this phobia, you know, which is the pandemic. A lot of people, you know, who were there, they came back running, you know, IPL. We had recently, Suresh Raina came back, you know, thinking that it's not going to be safe for him. So how do you manage, you know, when you're away from stardom, then you all of a sudden there. So what's the best way to
I
do it?
think before you enter a profession that puts you in the public's eye,
Yeah,
you should be very certain as to who you are. You should be dead certain that there are some things about you that you already like. And you should be dead certain that there are some things about you that you are proud of. So that nobody can shake
yeah,
your opinion of yourself. Whether you go up or you go down, those few values, no one should be able to rip away from you. No one should be able to unfairly say that he is not like this. So the ability to be fair, to not discriminate ever, to have compassion, to speak the truth.
yeah.
These are values I hold very dear. And whether my film is a hit or a flop, you can't take those things away from me. Simple. So you see a lot of sports persons, female and male, who struggle with fame because they came in without having the bedrock of 3 or 4 values that no one could take away from them. They didn't even know what they were before they came in. They just came in with their talent. And that's when you begin to lose your way, unless you quickly learn that there are things to put inside you that no one should be able to take away, as opposed to only putting outside, and waiting for external affirmation also. That's a surefire, uh, it's a clear path to hell. It, there'll be bits of heaven, but ultimately you will be in the fires of hell.
Absolutely. One last question. If you were to play a character in a biopic, which would be that sports person?
Well, I'm too old now to play any character in a biopic because all sports persons would be from their 20s to their 30s. So
You
that's an
look,
unfair question.
you look very young. You look very young.
Well, thank you. If I was in my 20s and 30s and I had to play someone,
Yeah.
if you didn't look at my skin color or the fact that I'm Indian or the fact that I'm half Bengali, quarter Punjabi, quarter Maharashtrian, forget all that. If I just had to think, who would I love to play? Then I think I'd love to play Ayrton Senna.
Okay.
I'd love to play McEnroe. I'd love to play, a complex personality, a personality that has many shades to that person. I would love to play. I'm just thinking about the really, really complex personalities. You could see them defeating themselves, on the court or on the field. Um, why not? It would be very, very interesting to play someone like Dennis Rodman,
Oh,
basketball. Yeah, those would be the characters. As an actor, you would love to get your teeth into those roles because there are many shades. As an actor, I would love to watch Beyond Borg, but as an actor to play Beyond Borg, you know what? Maybe not. Maybe I'll give this one a skip, kind of thing. So, as an actor, you're looking for complexity. You're looking at contradictions. You're looking at kind of a self-fulfilling thing about failure. You're looking at frustration. You're looking at deep-seated childhood neuroses. You're looking at all of this stuff. So I think that's where I would go as an actor.
it was really pleasure chatting with you. I wish I could go on and on. It's so much. You're an encyclopedia as far as sports is concerned. That's why I called
I
you.
just have one thing to say, Indranil. May I, if I could add?
Yeah.
And I hope you carry this on the program. I saw a bit of your program with Dr. Shashi Tharoor, and you referred to cricket as a gentleman's game.
Yeah.
Indranil, it's played by a lot of women
Oh,
and a
sorry,
lot of ladies.
sorry. I
Not
think
you, sorry. I'm saying, can we just stop calling it a gentleman's game? Can
okay.
we call it even a lady and a gentleman? No, not you. I'm just saying generally, it brought to light the fact that how chauvinistic and misogynistic is that? We don't need to call it. We can just call it a person who's evolved. Like we need to rephrase that, because I was thinking to myself, it's not his fault. It's not Dr. Shashi Tharoor's fault either. It is referred to as a gentleman's game. But if I was a woman and I was playing Test cricket, I would be thinking to myself, will
That,
you please stop? So
that
that's just a little
that's a
footnote
very
I wanted to give.
intelligent observation. Thanks a lot, and thanks a lot for coming on SK Live. It was such a pleasure having you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. My pleasure.